YouTube? This is your boy Kamen Zero Spike back again once again today, people. Today we have for Kamen Geats episode 23, and a lot of big revelations in this episode. A lot of stuff kind of spilled. We got a big revelation at the end of this episode as well, but the whole Disaster thing kind of has been thrown out of the window because of what has essentially happened and what Betuba has went out here and did, and what she's actually out here doing, and some more other revelations about like who the DGP staff and all of them actually are. Also, what exactly the Jamato actually are. We find out that in this, starting off, we see Jean beating the ever living snot out of Daiji and Buffa. He ends up beating the crap out of both of them, seeing that he has like essentially gravity powers. He essentially can use gravity on himself and on other people, and okay, using that CG budget, hey, but it's pretty freaking dope though. Even though he has an ugly suit, but we get an even uglier suit in this episode as well, which kind of makes me appreciate his suit a little bit more. He's actually a cool guy. But in this episode, we see that they basically get called to the main room. We see that Niram, his secretary, and they're actually chewing out Cherim because he essentially lost his belt to a outside source. We see that Betuba actually uses the Vision Driver to go to the statue of the goddess of creation, which is she uses it. She tries to get her essential wish granted, but she is intercepted by Niram, and he says that you can only use her if you have the authorization of the game master and the producers. So if you have clearance from basically both of them, then you're able to use the goddess of creation to your liking, which means that he also says that they've had a lot of experiences of people trying to do the thing that she's trying to do. So they ended up having to up their security and all that other stuff, which possibly means that someone probably succeeded in the past. But yeah, he ends up trying to take the Vision Driver from her, but she ends up using it, and as he teleporting away. When she teleports away, she ends up going back to the Jamato greenhouse world, things like that, and we find out what exactly the Jamato Garden actually is. The Jamato Garden is actually a world that the Kamen Riders essentially failed to protect. And since they failed to protect it, it ended up becoming a Jamato forest where Archimetal uses this place to grow and raise Jamato. We see that Archimetal is only on Betuba's side because he was pissed off that the DGP was only using Jamato as their pawns, but he actually wanted Jamato. He actually wanted to grow and raise Jamato for them to live their own lives and basically be able to live in their own world at peace with each other. But he hates the DGP for using basically using his kids. Well, that's what I'm saying, but he is using like his creations as like pawns or whatever. Because we see that the Jamato constantly get stronger, constantly adapt and things like that, all the way to the point where they actually act like regular people. We've seen that multiple times with them actually doing regular people stuff sometimes. But we go back, we see that Betuba does explain to Buffa exactly what they are, but she tells him off screen. But Buffa, he ends up knowing that, or him and Daichi ends up knowing that, but we don't know what they are. But Buffa's like, I don't care what you guys are, what you're planning. I just want to use you guys to get my wish granted. And we see, I was like, of course Buffa feels that way. He's a one line character. He just has one goal in mind. He doesn't care what's going on around him, which I feel like, hey man, after hearing what happened in this episode, because he was there, to hear what the DGP people actually are, and the audience, I'm like, I hope his mind gets changed to a degree. But we see that the rest of while everybody's in the same room together, we see that Niram is talking with Niram is chewing out Cherim, and him and his secretary are telling everyone basically not telling them what's going on, but he essentially tries to telling them to we need to go to the Jamato forest to get that vision driver back because they know where Betaba is. But he asks them, why do you guys, but Geats being Geats, he said, why do you guys know exactly where the Jamato are coming from? Like, why do you know where they come from, and how do you know where to get them? And he's like, well, we've kept we technically always known where they were, but we always keep like surveillance and stuff to know where they are so they don't go out of control. That's basically essentially what they said. But Geese asks them, like, what are you people? Where are you from? What do you do? Stuff like that. And Niram is like, no comment. Okay, I'm not telling you that. He's not, and he's essentially not telling them anything, but he tells them that, hey, at any point in time, we can all just walk away from this. We can all just we can all go somewhere else. And the idea of the DGP and every DGP and your Kamen Rider status and all that stuff can just be faded away from your memories. You could wake up tomorrow and not remember anything that even happened. So, and he's like, do you want that? He's like, nah. He's like, yeah, you got us there. And he decides to he basically tells them that, hey, just go ahead and get to work and get that vision driver back so the game can continue, because the game essentially gets halted. The whole disaster in game gets basically, and the whole DGP gets halted because of what Betaba did. So we see that while everybody's technically getting ready to go to the Jamato forest, the Jamato forest, we see that KY is talking with his frog statue guy, and he gives him the boost buckle. And then we see Neon. She goes to her supporter's room, but it's like full of flowers. It's kind of really beautiful, like all beautiful and stuff. And she gets a note from this guy, and this guy is like kind of pouring his heart out to her. But we essentially know who it is. We know it's the last guy she met. The guy, his name is Kiyun. His name is also revealed. His name is Kiyun, and Kiyun is the same guy that she talked to on bridge that day. And he ends up giving her the but he wasn't there, but he gives her a buckle. She ends up getting the fever buckle. And we see that Geats is he's walking in the forest, getting ready to go fight the Jamato, when he is intercepted by Jin. And Jin basically tells him that he tells him everything. He basically tells him like, oh, I'm actually like how you trying to figure everything out. That's why you're my favorite, stuff like that. And they ended up teaming up together. And Geats asks him, hey, you got a present for me? He said, hey, your present is me. So he actually hinges up, and then Geats sees his rider form and says, oh, you're a Kamen Rider too? He was like, yeah, I guess. So they end up having this amazing fight scene with them teaming up and fighting all these freaking Jamato in this forest. We also see that Neon and Tycoon are basically doing the same thing on the other side of the forest. They're kind of separated from Geats and Geats and Jin, but we see Jin's power sort of at the forefront, where he's able to like use gravity to essentially just destroy Jamato. He's flinging them into trees. They're blowing up left and right. Like he's doing it. He also does like a little thing where he makes like a hologram like snowboard that Geats is able to, or platform that Geats is able to jump on and fly around in and shoot people with. It's freaking cool. Like it's super. Like these two teaming up make a great team synergy wise. But while that's happening, we see that after they defeated all these Jamato, we get a conversation between Neon and Tycoon, basically saying that, hey man, like we used to be just regular people, and now we're freaking, do you think we're more Kamen Rider than we were before? She's like, definitely, yeah. We see that Neon did end up using the fever buckle, and she ends up getting beat, and she ends up getting since every time you use the fever buckle, you get one other buckle, but it's like doubled, so it's like double time. It's like double the strength of the regular beat, and she has like the double X guitar and the extra armor and all that stuff. We see that Tycoon ends up using the boost buckle and the ninja buckle, and I'm freaking glad he's finally using the boost buckle again, actually taking down. And now these Jamato riders are essentially nothing to them. They do feel stronger in a sense, because I remember how they used to have such a hard time with Jamato riders, but it seems like they've actually gotten strong enough to be able to take these dudes out in maybe 1 or 2 hits. So we see that Buffer makes his appearance with Geats, and he actually starts fighting Geats. And then we see that Buffer is able to use the Jamato buckle and the zombie buckle at the same time, which basically making Jamato zombie. And he starts fighting Geats. While he's fighting Geats, that's when Betaba shows up talking to Jin, and he says, "Hey, return the Vision Driver back and stuff like that." She said, "Nah, I don't think I'm gonna do that." And he's like, she's like a bratty, annoying little sister. Like that's what she really feels like. He said, "Hey, we're not allowed to," and so they're talking while Geats and Buffer are going at it. So they're talking and she says that, "Hey, she's like want to make a bet to see which one's gonna win," and he says that we're only authorized to watch. We can't interfere with anything. We're not supposed to be doing the stuff that we're doing. And she's like, "So what? The world's basically ancient history anyway." Which that makes Geats think. He's like, "Wait a minute, ancient history." So so we see that he ends up letting his guard down, and Buffer ends up basically slashing him to the point where he turns back into his regular form. His go back his civilian form, and he says that I see what y'all talking about now. Y'all are from the distant. You say our world is basically essentially the distant, the ancient history. So that means y'all are like from the very far future. Which he's like, he's like, yeah. He's like, so Jen is basically like, yeah, we're basically from the far, far future. You see that you guys used to use, Greek mythology and all these other things as entertainment. Well, we essentially use y'all as entertainment. We travel to basically different parts of time, and we basically set up DGP places there, and they have the DGP in different time periods, and I'm just like, it makes sense. Essentially, will also probably make sense to why Geats has probably been in every game, because that's why Geats kind of feels like a man out of time, because he's been in almost every single DGP. I think from what they said before, he's been in every single one and technically won all of them essentially. But it's a lot to think about. But real quick, but after Geats kind of loses the Buffer and he reveals that, we see that Betaba tries to, well, she ends up using she ends up henching up, and we actually see her rider form, and it's ass. Her rider form is ass. Can you even count this as a Kamen Rider? I mean, she just turns into a big pink mech. She looks just like how Jin looks, which kind of makes me think that these two are brother and sister. I don't know, but she basically just turns into a freaking mech. And then the way she flies up into the sky, though, it was so freaking kooky. But she flies up into the sky, and she gets ready to use her ultimate attack. We see that everybody sees this, and even there's one part I forgot. We saw Daichi does reveal himself to Tycoon and Neon, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "To answer that, I'm your enemy now." And he's like, he commands a horde of Jamato to attack them. We also see that God, I forgot her name. The announcer girl, Sumini. Yeah, Sumini. She acts as Cherim, the quote game master. She asks him, "How did Daiji end up?" She's like, "How did Daiji end up getting his freaking ID core back?" And he was like, "I don't know." And then she's like, "Of course you know. You're the one that authorized to give people those. So of course you probably gave it to him under the table." Which means that connection that Betaba was talking about earlier when she was talking to Daiji, how he asked her, "Hey, how'd you get my ID core back?" Maybe Cherim is the one that gave her. Maybe Cherim is her connection, and Cherim is the one that gave her his ID core back, and then she ended up giving it to him. That's probably what happened, because he kind of admits to it, but also doesn't admit to it. But yeah, so we see that she hinges up and transforms to this weird freaking form. She flies up into the air and then she gets ready to destroy the Jamato world. And she says, "I'm going to destroy the Jamato world." And we see that Archimedel's like, "Please don't do it. I don't destroy this world because I was so hard. I worked so hard raising them." She was like, "It's all right. I'll just destroy this and we can start all over, you know." And she ends up destroying it, and it's like one of those scenes where a big explosion happens, and then like also Daichi, Neon, and Tycoon also see this as well. So she ends up using this as he's destroying, basically nuking the whole place, and it basically episode ends with her standing in fire while she's laughing, which another crazy character. But the explosion goes off, and it's one of those scenes where the explosion goes off and like everything, you know, is silent. It's one of those scenes. But yeah, the episode ends off right there with her blowing everything up. And the next episode seems like they're gonna be fighting all the admins. Basically, they're like fighting their supporters, and we actually get a face reveal for Tycoon's supporter, the Frogman. Hopefully, I think that's him. Hopefully, that is him. But yeah, so this episode was. I have more questions, but I mean, a lot of things were answered, and I'm glad Jin was the one to answer those questions. Well, a few of the questions at least. That's why he's my favorite out of all the admins, man. He's pretty cool. But even though his writer's suit is freaking ugly, but hey, after seeing Better was. I have a more appreciation for him now because at least his suit is an actual suit that's functional. Her suit's just a big CGI pink and white mess. Ugh. But this episode, with the whole goddess of creation thing, I'm thinking that maybe it still is Ace's mom. I still think it has some kind of connection with Ace. I think it still really is Ace's mom, and I think the goddess of creation is the reason why he's able to be in every single DGP. Because I feel like this statue, this thing still does have some kind of will of its own, because they use its power to reshape the world or save the world or grant wishes, essentially. But from what's happening throughout this whole timeline thing, essentially I believe that all these, whenever a wish is granted, they kind of leave behind the other world that they were already in that's like destroyed or whatever, and then they just create a brand new world. So this whole thing kind of feels like an isekai kind of moment where the players essentially just feel like avatars in a video game. In my opinion, they feel like avatars in a video game, and since they're all in this video game, everybody just, when someone's wish is granted, the whole game is just like reset and started all over. Because we see how people, when they get retired, their dream or wish that they wanted to fulfill before gets erased from their mind, and they essentially become like a different person. And that's kind of like them jacking out of the game. But kind of, like, you get what I'm talking about? Like, you get me? But other than that, I'm wondering exactly. I feel like I feel like the thing that Betterbutt and Archimedes told Daiji and Buffa was the same thing that Jin said. You know, they're all from the very, very distant future, and you know, Buffa don't care. He don't. The dude don't even care, man. I hate that. He just set on this one stupid goal of vengeance, which is something that Geats called it in the episode. How he asks him, he's like, "What is that? What you call vengeance? Is this a vengeance that you want?" But I like how, you know, Geats isn't trying to get Buffa to come to their side. Like, he's not trying to, like how other writers have done, like when one guy becomes evil or whatever, he's trying to talk him out of it or talk him down or talk no jutsu him. I like how Geats kind of just doesn't care. I feel like he cares, but he's not trying to get Buffa to come back, or he's not trying to get Buffa to change. He just asks him questions, and he's always just down to fight him, you know. And he just lets Buffa do it. He just essentially just out here just like, hey man, Buffa can do whatever he want to do. He get in my way, I'm gonna beat him up though. That's how it feels. But other than that, you guys let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about this episode of Kamen Geats. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys next time. And remember, stay henshined.